So today I woke up feeling dead inside, and by dead inside I mean I don't want to get out of bed, and I also don't want to be conscious. I'd rather just sleep for the rest of the day. So if you've ever experienced that where you literally just feel lethargic, you feel dead, the way I'm going to describe it is dead inside, this video is for you. And I realized I probably woke up feeling dead inside because somebody out there on the internet also feels dead inside sometimes. And I now understand intimately what that experience is, and I can backtrack what happened. I have a whiteboard here. I'm going to share with you guys exactly how we feel dead inside and how to cure that. But I want to first acknowledge that feeling dead inside is a normal human experience. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that God hates you or you're broken. It's just the way the world works, and sometimes you feel dead inside. Oftentimes it's due to your own behavior, which we will talk about, okay? But the best way I can describe feeling dead inside here is there's this Lana Del Rey song with The Weeknd, Lust for Life, and it says, "A lust for life keeps us alive." And it's basically when you wake up and you have no lust for life anymore. You just feel dead. You feel empty. But that is a very normal human experience, okay? It's a normal human experience. There's nothing wrong with it. It just is, okay? Nobody said that you have to feel good all the time. Nobody said you have to feel happy all the time or that life doesn't suck sometimes. And oftentimes I even hear spiritual people or Christian people or whatever talking about how you're feeling that way because you are disconnected from God or something like that. And maybe that's true, and we will get into that. But generally, it's also just a part of life that we experience, okay? So here to prove it, I'm going to read this Bible verse that your pastor would never tell you because he doesn't want you to know. This is Jeremiah 21:14. "Cursed be the day on which I was born, the day when my mother bore me. Let it not be blessed. Cursed be the man who brought the news to my father. A son is born to you, making him very glad. Let that man be like the cities that the Lord overthrew without pity. Let him hear a cry in the morning and an alarm at noon, because he did not kill me in my womb, so my mother would have been my grave, and her womb forever great. Why did I come out of the womb to see toil and sorrow, and spend my days in shame?" All right, that's Jeremiah 21:14 and a little bit after that. Okay, let's explain this. It is a normal human experience to feel like life sucks. All right? And we have to cope with that, but we also have to understand why it generally sucks, okay? In this new digital age, there's a lot of reasons that we can actually make our lives shittier by our behavior, okay? So let's just go through this little flow chart, and I did make my famous cold brew, vanilla cream cold brew coffee this morning. And it is incredibly dank, okay? So I no longer feel dead inside. All right, so you wake up and you feel dead. So why do you feel dead inside, okay? Why? Why do I feel dead when I wake up? Generally speaking, this is not an all-intensive list. This is not an all-inclusive list. Generally, there was some form of high dopamine intake the day before, and what's happening is your body is crashing. It experienced so much dopamine, now it's not getting that dopamine anymore, and it's like on a lower level. It's basically crashing, okay? So high dopamine intake. So for me personally yesterday, I made the executive decision to use some nicotine pouches that were 12 milligrams because it's winter now and it is kind of shitty outside, and after work I decided that I wanted to just throw in a nicotine pouch and play some video games. All right. Unfortunately for me, that was a high dopamine intake, okay? So here's a list of some of the high dopamine intake things that we can be doing that are going to make us feel dead inside. If you really think about it, one of these things probably happened the day before you woke up and felt dead inside, all right? Nicotine, weed, porn, masturbation, caffeine, a lot of caffeine, sugar. By the way, I'm not a hypocrite. This is half caffeine, half decaf, so it's really like 40 milligrams. Not too much, all right? Caffeine, a ton of sugar, binge watching something, TikTok, shorts, social media, anything that's given us a lot of dopamine from that, alcohol, video games, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things. But if you really think about it, there was high likelihood that there was a high dopamine intake the day before. All right? There was some sort of high dopamine intake. And generally, we have to ask ourselves, why do I need to do that? All right? Why do I need that thing? Why do I keep doing that thing? And if you really think about it, at least in my personal example, there's at least some sort of cope that this is taken care of. There's an MGK line in one of his songs, something about, I can't remember, but he says, I'm trying to be vacant. It's in uppers and downers are keeping me up. I can't remember the last line. I'm trying to be vacant is what he's saying, okay? So it's a cope. High dopamine is a cope with something, some unwanted experience that we're having, all right? Maybe that job is you wake up. Maybe that cope is you wake up every day, you hate your job every day. You wake up, you got no bitches. Wake up, you got no purpose. Wake up, you're avoiding reality. Or you are afraid of something, okay? So there's some sort of negative emotion going on inside of you that you have to cope with, okay? This thought or this emotion is like a foghorn in your face, trying to get your attention so you can get to the root of the problem, whatever that problem is. Maybe it's like unforgiveness. It could be something like that too. Also not an all-inclusive list, but the cycle is we feel dead inside because we had dopamine. We have dopamine because we were coping with something. And the reason we were coping with something is because we were disconnected from source generally. And I will talk about that in a second here. So if you were connected to source being God or Jesus, whatever you want to call that, source is God, all right? And that thing is the source of all consciousness and energy and love and all of those things. And when we are connected to the source, as Jesus says, connected to the vine grows plentiful. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you are not a good branch, you're getting cut off, okay? So if you're cut off from the source, it is dead. It's no longer attached to the vine, it dies, okay? That's why you feel dead inside, because you are not attached to the vine. All right? There's probably a couple reasons why you're not attached to the vine. The thing is, we have to make a conscious effort to try and prioritize God, our relationship with God, serving God, experiencing God. You have to make that as the top priority in your life. And when you don't do that, that means there's always in your life, there's always something that is the most important thing to you. All right? There's one thing that is more important. Maybe it's football. Maybe it's cold brew coffee. Maybe it's reading books. Maybe it's makeup. I don't know what it is, okay? There's always one thing that is most important to you in life. There is no possible way to have two things. If you could only choose one thing that's most important, what is it, okay? And generally, that thing is not God, all right? And what happens is when we have some sort of idol that is not God, we are disconnected from source because we are out of alignment with the flow of things. All right, now I'm not shaming anyone because I obviously am guilty of this. That's why I felt dead inside today. No one is getting shamed here. No one is like permanently detached from God. This is just a state of being. Heaven and hell are states of being. You're either in hell or heaven vibration is what I've found. Okay, so when we have an idol, we are in the hell vibration and we feel dead inside. So what is that idol? Generally, maybe it's I really want a relationship. Maybe it's I really want a career or job. Okay, now you have to understand that when that thing is the most important thing in your life, it rots you to the core because it is unsatisfying. You get that thing and it can't satisfy like source can. God is the only thing that can satisfy. Jesus says, like, whoever eats and drinks my words will never be thirsty again. Okay, but if you worship your job or video games, whatever it is, you will always be thirsty again. And you will feel dead inside. Okay, so generally there's some sort of idol. And that idol could be, like I said, it's up to you to decide what is that idol. Okay, what we need to do is just realize we have a lack of knowledge here. And realize, okay, there is some sort of idol. What is it? What is that idol? And we need to just refresh ourselves and just take some time. Maybe it's making money. So maybe I'm just like, all right, God, I love making money. I'm just going to take 3 days off from work and just sit at home and read the Bible or whatever it is, okay? So whatever that idol is, we need to acknowledge what it is because everyone's is going to be different. It's probably work or relationship, though. That's probably falls. Money or a relationship. It is probably going to be one of the top things. Or you want to feel important, and feeling important maybe is your God. Being powerful, maybe you are your own God. So it's either, most likely, you are your own God, money is your God, or a relationship is your God. It's probably something like that. And once you acknowledge that that is the case, then you can reroute and say, you know what? I understand that this is what makes me feel dead inside, and I can stop doing that thing. And once I stop doing that thing and realign my values, then what happens is I don't need to cope with anything anymore, so I don't need the high dopamine, and then I don't feel dead inside. And that is my solution. When you connect with the source, when you understand the purpose, hey, there's a specific purpose. Maybe your purpose is your idol, that you need to feel like you're doing something important all the time. Like, and once again, that'd probably fall into the category of you are your own God, where I need to feel like I'm powerful or I'm influential. Like, let's just talk about, and I don't know him, but let's talk about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said, I want to make a dent in the universe forever, okay? And everyone said he was a super shitty person, okay? So his God was making a dent in the universe, and everyone hated him. All right, cool, he made a dent in the universe, but everyone hated him, and his life probably sucked. All right, so he was just coping with something potentially his whole life. And once again, I don't know him personally, but that's just a conclusion that I can logically draw from that interaction. So, what is that idol? What are you coping with? That idol causes corruption, which means that you have to cope, which means you have to use something of high dopamine, which means you feel dead inside. So, once again, it's a normal experience to feel dead inside. That's okay. Let's understand why, and hopefully we can get better and stop doing that, because the most important thing, we got to use our time wisely here. We have to honor God with our time and live a life that is satisfying. Don't you want to enjoy your life? Does feeling dead inside when you wake up, is that something you enjoy doing? I sure don't. So we need to just go ahead and be connected to the source. Have a wonderful day, guys.